On a Tuesday, the communication arrived at precisely 1447. Earth Standard Time, Sarah Chun was Luna Station. S Command Center was where she was enjoying her morning coffee, when all of the solar system S communication devices went out. Suddenly began to squawk. No one had ever received a signal like that. It arrived by means of quantum channels that were completely unknown to them. The entire planet's security system was evaded, was constructing. It was fluent in 17 languages, including English, French, Mandarin, and Spanish, languages spoken by humans simultaneously. Calling all humans and other animals, the voice spoke. It had an air of life while being mechanical and icy. Attention, Admiral. Speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council is Kethel of the Hegemony of Zephaia. It is you willing to pay close attention. You ought not to disturb. My expectation is that you will follow through. Dear Sarah Oops. Her coffee cup fell on the floor. It broke against the metal floor, but she failed to hear or see the sound. Standing still in front of their screens were the cops and technicians around her. Something implausible appeared on the primary screen. A complete galactic atlas in 3 dimensions. Stars and the hundreds lights flashed blue over the systems. On the periphery, a little cluster emitted a yellow light. The speaker went on to say that the blue systems are part of the hegemony. The matter is now under our control. Throughout the course of 3,000 years, here, order is preserved. We uphold tranquilly, we keep society from collapsing. On the screen, the yellow cluster became bigger. Sarah discerned the spirit. 20 additional human settlements. The system, Alpha Centauri, involved 359, that little region of the enormous cosmos. The systems that are yellow are yours, 23 realms. A kind tolerance for a species that is so immature. Being here is a blessing in and of itself since you displayed encouraging signs. At any time, you may withdraw that consent. Both of Sarah's hands began to tremble. For 15 years, she had led space missions. A nebula had caught her eye, may engulf whole solar systems. As she witnessed others perish, an extraterrestrial voice made her feel as innocent as a kid caught red-handed with sweets. Having said that, modern that we are involved in, you travel too far with your ships. Your colony grows. All too soon, your representatives inquire excessively. There can be no more of this, without delay. The galaxy diagram shifted. A crimson ring materialized around the individual entities, coming together to produce an ideal spherical shape. You are looking at the Kepler border. In the absence of any human vessel are going to step beyond this threshold. Outside of this boundary, no human habitation will be permitted. Absence of any sort of human investigation will move on from here. A button on Admiral Chun's panel was pressed. Admiral is my name. Lieutenant Sarah Chun of the Terran Commonwealth Fleet. It was not be aware of the existence of other sentient beings. We are not malicious. Maybe we can have a chat? No words will escape you. She was interrupted by the extraterrestrial speaker. Pay attention, this screen shifted once more. Sarah was confused by the solar system it depicted. The solar system's 8 planets whirled around a crimson star. 3 planets were occupied by urban areas. They were traversed by ships. In a flurry of activity like some bugs. This was the realm of the Krillians. A civilization was established by them that duration of 12,000 years. They made music, wrote poems, and created art. They investigated the awe and optimism towards the stars. The picture changed. The identical system was now displayed. In a unique way. There were no planets in the star, but shattered atoms where there should have been. In outer space, pebbles floated. The clattering of millions of rocks and metal fragments by way of the empty. The Krillians thought they could disregard our borders. They considered themselves to have had unique advantages due to their long history of civilization. Myth busted. In 3 hours, their civilization came to an end. Sickness gripped Sarah. People in the billions had. Those worlds were home too. Currently, they were only space junk around an isolated star. We not inhumane. Continue, Admiral Kethel said. Destruction is never done without a reason, yet when refused to budge from your position. The status quo must be upheld. The powerful should lead the helpless. Knowledgeable people have to overcome the naive. Human ships appeared on the screen. At this point, Sarah identified them. Spacecraft for scientific study, colony transfer, and exploration. The pictures were really specific. Long have the extraterrestrials seen human space travel. Time, weapons are on board your ships. Colonies of yours educate warriors. If you administrations organize military operations, these deeds point to an aggressive motive. We cannot allow hostile species to threaten galactic peace. Sarah said something that sounded aggressive, but she knew the alien couldn't hear her because communications had been shut off. So, you will agree to the following conditions. Initially, all human settlements outside of the Kepler barrier will end at once. Secondly, all human-powered military ships will be restricted to self-defense exclusively. Lastly, any human vessel discovered after. Unpredictable destruction of the border is the fourth point. Additionally, these phrases are not totally up for discussion. The extraterrestrial's voice stayed deadpan, like he was reading a rather than endangering a whole species. To show how serious we are, we have made a small-scale visualization. The scene transitioned to depict the solar system unique to Earth, a huge. As it sailed past Neptune and headed towards the inner planets, the form changed shape too. The term ship seems inappropriate because of its size, which exceeded that of Earth's moon. Coated with aesthetically painful patterns, the metal was smooth and dark. At the end, one of our smaller patrol boats. It has on board an arsenal powerful enough to wipe out your home planet 7 times over. It will still be there. As a constant reminder of our pact for 37 of your days in your system. Sarah observed as it slid by Mars, the extraterrestrial craft's massive size made the red planet appear as flat as a marble. The human patrol ships that came close to it just turned off because their crews were too afraid to fight. Now you know for sure. Consider yourself competent of basic interplanetary travel and colonization. Do not let your pride get in the way of these commendable accomplishments for such a young species. Demolish all you've constructed. The signal started to weaken, but the last words said by the extraterrestrial were audible. Ever since you departed from Earth, we have kept tabs on your species. We are familiar with your past. We are familiar with your character. You are aggressive, sudden, and harmful to both yourself and those around you. Nevertheless, there is hope. You have the capacity to learn, develop, and overcome. Succeed in this intergalactic society. Stay inside your sphere of influence, follow our instructions, flourish while we watch over them. Please do not interpret this as a request. Discussion. This is the sole opportunity for your species to be heard. Came to a halt. The galaxy map vanished. The displays remained dark for an extended period. The command center remained still, with only the hum of air recyclers breaking the silence, together with the faraway rumble of the station's machinery. Lieutenant Torres' admiral ultimately whispered, "What do we do?" Sarah peered out the window as he spoke. 3 billion people called Earth home, as seen via the observation glass suspended in orbit below on that blue planet. Billions upon billions more resided in colonies spread out over the cosmos. They were all now held captive within their respective solar systems. "Please get me in touch with Earth Command," she said. "I need to patch something. Reach every colony governor, the Defense Council, and President Santos. Put quantum encryption to use, most stringent safety measures." "Indeed, ma'am. Who am I to advise?" Sarah observed as the silhouette of an extraterrestrial spacecraft whizzing by Jupiter, stunning in a macabre way direction, as if it were a falling star or a storm cloud. "Tell them we have a problem," she said. "Tell them that someone just told humanity where we can't go in," they said. While contemplating the aliens' lifeless worlds, she halted, wondering about our own cosmos. Presented to them, considering the danger looming over the planet, considering 23 abruptly ensnared in an unseen prison, and informed them that we must. The Terran Senate met in an emergency session for 18 hours to choose a course of action. President Maria politicians debated how to react to the extraterrestrial ultimatum, while Santos sat in her office and watched. Some forcibly imposed their will on others, while the majority only wanted to be heard. Felt threatened. It would be wise to engage in negotiations. Mars Colony's Senator Williams was expressing the hope that a middle ground may be found. Assuming we can come to an agreement on their Centauri system, Senator Park shook her head and said, "You saw that there was oversight, just as they did to the Krillians. These extraterrestrials don't bargain. They command. And look for submission. Then what other option do we have?" William retorted, "Fight or get mankind annihilated in a conflict we can't win because of pride. Santos abandoned us." During the discussion, she had been exposed to your same arguments throughout the day. Disobedience, the eternal struggle between the two extremes of survival and freedom. Captain Rodriguez, who was her assistant, walked in with a datapad. "Ma'am," he said, his voice filled with authority, receiving messages from the solar system's outer colonies. "Aliens are constructing an object." As Santos read the information on the pad, her body froze. "Structures located just beyond our perimeter." "Yes, ma'am. They sprang up out of nowhere last night, and our long-range sensors have counted 30 of them thus far." The president accessed the tactical display, which showed the locations of extraterrestrial beings around Earth as red dots, with each dot growing in size, having more weaponry than humanity's largest space station. She murmured something about a cage and how Earth's nuclear arsenal resembles firecrackers. Rodriguez grimaced and nodded. Admiral Chun asked for clearance to approach one of the stations so she could get detailed. "Scanning, not at all. We wait to provoke them until we have a good idea of what we're up against." Santos knew that her remarks would provoke an angry response the moment they were spoken. Cages aren't meant for humans. The first occurrence happened 3 weeks later on the research spacecraft Curiosity, damaged while researching a pulsar close to the Kepler border due to a solar flare. The spacecraft sank 3.5 light-years into their confined space while the crew attended to the repairs. The mission's dot was Dr. Elizabeth Warren. Leader conveyed the urgency of the issue through an urgent communication. Before returning to human space, she sought permission to finish repairs. The reply from the extraterrestrial being was courteous, sincere, and businesslike. Arrived 12 minutes after the initial spark, and all interest quickly faded. Upon detection by sensors, and then it vanished without a trace. Transport 847. Researchers and crew personnel wiped from the face of the Earth. In her rooms on board the starship Indomitable and without a trace. Admiral Chun. While she was going over the outer patrol route deployment timetables when word got to her, the datapad softly said, "All hands," as the report slid between her fingers. The ship's communication system picked up her voice and aired it across the vessel. "Admiral Chun, meaning All Souls, on board the scientific probe Curiosity as of today at 1347 UTC. She halted, sensing the weight of the aliens' destruction of the ships they were on while they were engaged in benign scientific inquiry, of authority bearing the brunt of every subsequent action this very second. According to the aliens, this was their punishment for Doctor, because they wanted us to assume that Warren and her crew had crossed an unseen border in empty space. They deserve to perish. All through the unstoppable crew, they want us to thank them for being kind and not killing additional ships." Everybody paused what they were doing to hear what was being spoken. On the bridge, officers averted their gaze from their workstations. Discord swept around the mess hall. "I believe 847 people lost their lives today because of someone's negligence," Chun continued. "Attempted to confine us. I believe they perished as a result of our decision to be besieged by large-shipped thugs." She mustered the courage to stand up and make her way to the viewport. She was staying in her quarters where the stars were endlessly gorgeous. Aliens using surveillance equipment in outer space kept tabs on Earth like a prison warden. There is no such thing as a slave, a prisoner, or a pet in this world. Peaceful zoo. As free spirits, we travel wherever our hearts desire. Ceased, but word quickly traveled across the fleet thanks to Shah. By the time the extraterrestrial watchdogs had been audible to all colonists. Stations received these signals, but the people inside couldn't decipher them. What they were listening to. The Dominion has subjugated 412 distinct species throughout almost 3,000 years. The pattern of each conquest was the same. First, there was opposition, concise and futile, followed by compromise-seeking negotiations. Lastly, Acceptance. The vanquished species learnt to adapt to the limits set by the hegemony. Humans, according to Admiral Keithel's experts, would follow this pattern. Looked at the past and present of the human race and came to the realization that people were emotional, impulsive, and susceptible to the first indication of aggression was violence. But they also knew that others could detect when someone was stronger than them. 2 months subsequent to the Curiosity incident, it became apparent that something was off. There was an uptick in the exceptional frequency of navigational mistakes made by human ships around the critical circumstances, necessitating brief forays into surprisingly. Space restrictions became the norm. The Atlantic Dream shipped goods experienced a breakdown of the engine right within the prohibited zone. The research vessel. They were compelled to cross the line in need of emergency repairs after Newton had a severe breakdown in their life support system. In order to escape the pirates, the Mayflower colony's conveyance asked for permission to go into a restricted area. Despite the frequent occurrence of equipment malfunctions and the inherent dangers of space travel, every incident was technically possible. Was far too handy to have been a coincidence, and in his command chamber on board the Fortress, Keith examined the reports. Endless Dominion, Subcommander Urix, his aides stood alert. Next to the 17 infractions in 60 days using holographic displays were reported by Urix, it seems that all of them are valid crises. But the odds point to collaboration. They're putting us to the test. Kethel came to a realization. We are testing our answers and discovering our strengths. Should we kill the next intruder to make your point loud and clear? Keith thought about this. The typical process for the hegemony was to gradually increase, starting with warnings and eventually exhibits, and subsequently targeted annihilation. It had been effective for 3,000 decades. That hasn't happened yet. Destroying the research vessel ought to have been enough. Maybe it may take people longer to come to terms with their new reality. However, while KFA felt uneasy when he said this, since human behavior was unlike any other creature from the vast records of hegemony, we learn that the majority of conquered peoples displayed obvious patterns of subordination. Humans to send diplomatic emissaries, pay tribute, and beg for pardon. We're busy constructing additional ships rather than engaging in any of those activities. A threefold increase characterizes the military's involvement in human space. Around key colonies, new defense installations have emerged since the ultimatum, and combat drills have begun. Expanded and appeared more frequently. Excuse me, Rick said with care. Maybe we need to reevaluate our strategy, they said, their military buildup indicating that they could be preparing to actively oppose. Let them construct, Kethel retorted. Their biggest warship has less armor than our littlest patrol vessel. They were unable to harm even one with their full fleet. Station for tracking, he was spot on. Human technology was, of course, rudimentary in comparison to many other assessments. They had rudimentary weaponry and sluggish ships. They always used the same strategies. It would only take minutes for humans to lose any kind of direct conflict. However, Cathal was composing. An error that the hegemony had committed with each of their earlier conquests. His presumption believed having a stronger military meant you'd win. His presumption was that reasonable things will always be more important to living things than freedom. He had the impression that people were no different from any other animal. The hegemony had come across. 3 months subsequent to the Curiosity event, the President Admiral Keithville sent a private message to Santos. Her face lit up with it. An individual terminal equipped with the same enigmatic technology that had conveyed the initial dire warning. Head of State Santos, the alien's likeness, informed the humans that this was their first encounter with their captor. With the exception of his silver skin and very large eyes, he appeared quite human, huge and too gloomy. Yours truly, Admiral Kethville. We have made note of new breakthroughs in your field. Santos reclined in her seat. Her previous experience looking forward to this message. You have seen a remarkable rise in your military production. Even now your ships are. Disobey our prohibitions. Talks on freedom are given by your leaders an opposing viewpoint. Based on your behavior, it seems that our prior communication was misconstrued. Although the extraterrestrial's face remained unchanged, his tone betrayed his growing displeasure. We suggested a straightforward choice: acceptance or annihilation. By and large, animals choose for conformity within the first year. You have had plenty of time to think about what to do. We must now opt for, the picture tilted in a little, abolish the manufacture of any weapon without delay. Minimize the defense capabilities of your fleet. Deploy diplomatic officials to recognize the authority of the hegemony officially. Try to complete this task no later than 30 minutes after you. Days before we shall consider your choice to be extinct. An episode concluded, abandoning Santis to ponder her innermost ideas. The view from her window revealed that the continental shelf was illuminated by the lights of New Geneva. 500,000 individuals had lived here all by themselves. The fate of billions more rested on her shoulders. She turned on. She communicated with Admiral Chun using her system of communications. At midnight, the 30-day deadline passed. Planetary Coordinated Time, within his command chamber, Admiral Kethel anticipated an order to surrender from the human authority. He got something quite different instead. Regardless of all of a sudden, every galactic communication link was carrying the identical transmission. Being human. Different languages, however, the message remained the same. Head of state from the Outer Rim territories to Earth. Santos was on TV. My colleague, she started by addressing both humanity and the extraterrestrial watchers who had come to subjugate us. The discussions have come to a close today. Thanks to Zephyr's dominance, we now have in direct action. You will either have to accept their rule or perish. By stooping down and reclining in it, he was taken aback by this remark. How about some diplomacy mission? The cries for help were noticeably absent. In their view, having more powerful weapons gave them the authority to confine us in cages. We will be submissive because of our fear, they think. They think humans are just like all the other animals they've subjugated. Sanus Est held still, staring squarely at the camera. Nothing frightened her, instead determination, myth busted. With a rise to his feet, the president was captured on tape as she was speaking while seated on the warship's bridge. She was followed by a flurry of action at the Indomitable's command center. Our firm is descendants of a planet that, over millions of years, actively sought our destruction on a daily basis. We made it through cold ages that were supposed to wipe us off. Half of our people perished during the epidemics we faced. We battled battles that almost destroyed our culture, only to be reborn much more powerful. Higher than previously. Extraterrestrial technicians, seen in perplexion from observation stations, spread out over human space. It wasn't the way a vanquished species should act. To believe that are we scared of weapons? We developed weaponry capable of shattering entire planets before we understood across space and time. Space is unfriendly, in your opinion? This is our home. It is your belief that will we be undone by being alone? For all of human history, we have existed in complete isolation from the rest of the cosmos. Chun, the admiral, stepped on display next to the boss. Her demeanor was composed and her attire was neat. She was followed by the primary display, which depicted the solar system-wide placements of human fleet elements. Hence, since your ultimatum is rejected, Santos continued. Your authorization has been rejected. We refuse to acknowledge your authority to dictate the boundaries of our own galaxy to mankind. The extraterrestrial intelligence stations started communicating with their superiors in a timely manner. This is the first of its kind. Up until now, no race had dared to challenge the galactic order in such a public fashion. In 130 minutes from now, a human fleet will surpass the Kepler limit. The planet you refer to as Kepler is going to be the site of our settlement. Section 442b. We plan to construct dwellings there, begin residing there, and to enjoy a life of liberty. Keffel began his messaging. System, all monitoring stations, Admiral Keffel here. People have made the statement our limits will be violated by them. Get the military ready for a swift reaction. Although Santos didn't finish, your attempt to thwart us is predictable. Your ships are larger than ours, your technology is more sophisticated, and your weapons are more potent. Everyone here is aware that you have faith in our abilities to give up when the going gets tough. There was an air of mystery about her smile. was more terrifying than any weapon because you have no idea what you're up against. No one has ever confronted you with a species that despises captivity and would rather to die fighting instead. Humans are completely new to you. The signal was cut off. Throughout the cosmos, the subject species, which had endured hegemony for many generations, stood by in startled quietness. Someone has finally told the Empire no after 3,000 years. Chief of Staff on the Indomitable's bridge, Chun stood. 200 spacecraft swarmed the area as the human fleet was ready to leave. On Earth, ranging from large colony transports to smaller warships. I was in. Most extensive navy that mankind had ever built. "Every ship reports ready," said Admiral Torres. The course was entered for Kepler 442 and Sean gave a nod. Her gaze swept across the gathered her army and a wave of pride washed over her. They lacked professionalism, troops, or grizzled combatants. Through it all they were engineers, scientists, and farmers. Educators, those who had willingly crossed an alien border in pursuit of liberty, was of paramount importance. She issued the order to open a channel to all ships. "Admiral, the channel is open. It is Admiral Chun speaking, to every ship. We will be able to is going to go over the Kepler border and into the confined space. Aliens will attempt to halt our progress. Their warships are larger, their weaponry more powerful, and their experience greater. We ought to lose this battle, according to all reasonable estimations." Taking a moment to gaze at the looks on the bridge crew's faces. Youths, mostly those who had grown up unrestricted and planned to remain so. Humans, however, have never excelled at reasoning. Point. Our species first considered crossing the ocean, and we ultimately chose to do so in traditional boats made with wood. The sight of mountains inspired us to make the ascent. Our team examined the upper air and made the decision to take flight. As she spoke, sailors across the fleet listened intently as she getting ready for the big day. Armor was activated, weapons were refueled. Course modifications computed. Our focus today is on a galactic kingdom that has been in power for 3,000 years, and we've decided to resist it. Not because we have a chance of winning, but because we believe that some causes are worth battling for no matter how long it takes. From her seat, she her hands on the armrests of the captain's chair. "Every ship has Admiral Chun here. Start free to all drives." Where to go? Freedom. The crew of humans dissipated into hyperspace, leaving only Earth's defense installations and patrol ships in orbit. In the background, extraterrestrial radars picked up the fleet's departure and started plotting intercept routes. Kepler 442's journey completed in 6 hours traveling at the speed of hyperspace. During that period, Chun reviewed, communicating with individuals she may never meet again and preparing tactical reports. She did place a note on Mars for her daughter as a precautionary measure. "Captain," a ship's cop yelled out, descending to sublight within 30 seconds. Every station, stand ready, prepare your weapons. We should see what awaits us." The fleet descended from hyperspace just outside the Kepler 442 system's periphery. All of the sensor screens began to light up with contacts right away. 50 extraterrestrial battleships coalesced, separating the people from the planet they were bound for. In a scary sense, the ships were gorgeous. Sleek serpentine silver rods, one the size of a whole city. Rhythms of energy passed down their hulls as if struck by lightning. They were still, in emptiness, repose. Words were spoken over the bridge about Jesus. Shu analyzed the strategic display. Every extraterrestrial vessel had a tenfold advantage over the unstoppable. When it's likely that weaponry might vaporize human boats with a single shot. That was the type of circumstance where all hope was lost. People have been dealing with throughout recorded history. "Commander," the messenger informed you, "we're getting a message sent by an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Display it on screen." Displayed his appearance on front and center. He had a look of icy dominion with his silvery features. "Hey there, human beings. You're in disrupting the hegemonic space. Put your weapons away and get ready to be led back to your own land. In any make an effort to go forward will lead to." Chun sprang to his feet in the midst of your demise and reached the middle of the bridge on foot. Awaiting her reply, the group gathered around her. On board, there are 200,000. The volunteers tensed up. The Terran Fleet's Admiral Sarah Chun, she spoke calmly about the Commonwealth Fleet. We will now go on to Kepler 442b in order to start a human settlement. We suggest that you take a back seat. The look on Kevil's face remained unchanged. Admiral Chun, you're in charge of a group of simple ships that are brought together the strength of the hegemony. Your troops will be allowed to return home if you surrender immediately. Keep going away, and you're all going to perish. With the same smile as the president, Shun grinned. Prior to airing during her program, Sir Kethful, the Admiral, it is evident that you are confused about what is happening. We are not in this to haggle. Nobody should expect us to give up now. This is our mission to demonstrate to the cosmos what occurs when people are imprisoned. Her gaze shifted to her officer concentrating on tactical operations. Form an assault formation, all ships. Aim for the spacecraft of the extraterrestrial race. Admiral, Keffel said, his voice betraying his true perplexion. This fleet of have little chance of prevailing against our army. Call it quits? Perhaps, Chun said, when you have no idea what it's like to be human. Ultimately, it's up to us to decide. With a look at her staff, she sat back down in her chair, choosing to die free rather than live as slaves. Young people, frightened, nonetheless resolute. Those who had constructed the earliest urban centers on Earth, journeyed to its first star systems and discovered its initial continents, set fire to it when prepared, she said softly. In unison, the human fleet began firing power lines as missile barrages raced through space in pursuit of the extraterrestrial barrier. That was a terrible show in comparison to the capabilities of the manned ships, but it signified the turning point. Moment the galactic rulers formally declared war on mankind. Outcome from the extraterrestrials, massive force. Their spacecraft spat forth beams of pure energy, and each one might devastating a human ship with a single strike. The void between the two fleets glowed like a little star when their weaponry clashed. Ablaze the space, however, a surprising occurrence occurred. The vessels manned by humans remained steadfast in the face of overwhelming enemy gunfire. Even when their shields stopped working, they refused to give up. On the contrary, adapted. Ramming assaults were employed by ships whose guns were damaged. Vessels to that location when their life support system failed. Go to other ships and utilize decoys made of empty hulks. When traditional methods were ineffective, people came up with innovative individuals in a hurry. The Indomitable was struck directly, rendering half of her systems inoperable. Rather of stepping back, Sean directed the spacecraft to make a frontal assault on the extraterrestrial capital. Everybody get down. I am amid the devastation caused by enemy fire. She made her transmission to the Admiral. Leave the ship. Navigate to the pods where you may escape. Okay, I understand. What happened during Kepler's A full day was spent on edge. The area surrounding the colony world appeared after it concluded, similar to a cemetery. A tangle of twisted metal swung slowly around the Earth. From the strewn wreckage, emergency signals faintly shone. The exquisite silver. Amid the debris, the hegemony's ships sank to the point that they resembled ruined hulks, inhuman blood vessels, small mark. Admiral Kefal nearly made it. His ship's deck lay in ruins, a jumble of broken screens and arcing wires. Half of his team was dead. Half the time the other half was scrambling to maintain life support. Current situation. His voice raspy from inhaling smoke, he issued an order to report. Urix, sub-commander, squirmed their way free of a fallen beam, her blood-stained and ripped silver uniform. 37 ships have been lost, sir. Out of the 143, the humans were defeated. All things considered, we came out on top. Incredulous, Kethal gazed at the tactical screen. Positions of vessels that managed to survive were displayed. 13 despite this, several ships strong enough to fight. 57 human ships in varying degrees of disrepair. A large amount declared triumph, but an uneasy feeling persisted. People aren't running away. It was... Taken note, small mark, I was right. The remaining human ships were assembling a defense force despite suffering heavy losses, another assault. The channels via which they communicated were lively with activity as they planned their subsequent attack. It was reported by the communications officer, sir. Our company is tapping into human conversations. Our surviving ships will be rammed by them. Are you going to ram them? Rix appeared perplexed. Nevertheless, it would be a tragic failure. The remnants of their army would be decimated. You, Keith, realized at that moment that these people weren't battling for victory. Their justification for fighting was clear. Death is better for them. Combating rather than being overcome. Ships are getting ready to make an emergency leap to dimensional space. He gave the directive. We're taking a break. Even Sir couldn't conceal her shock. Our weaponry is a cut above. The remaining ships can be destroyed. At what price? The tactical display was indicated by Keffel. Prior evidence suggests that they will defeat your enemies by sacrificing everything. More ships will be lost if we remain. Compared to primitives, hegemony cannot afford to swap ships one for one. Though the last of the hegemony spacecraft disappeared into hyperspace, abandoning the humans to their plight. After they won? Despite awful odds, it was an unusual type of win. Nevertheless, it was still a triumph. Small mark. Floating in the water, Captain Lisa Torres' urgent capsule, and it whisked her away from the destined destiny. In order to little window, she witnessed the replay of Admiral Chun's sacrifice on her. Records well. A new star was born in space when the human flagship and the extraterrestrial command ship collided. Her communication system, Captain, was rattling. The defiant is this. Our company is rescuing those still alive. Wait for help to arrive. The beacon was triggered by Torres and patiently waited. Additional pods floated in the shadows all around her. Countless nice individuals lost. Tragically, many families would never reunite with their cherished members. Nevertheless, they were faced with a feat that no other animal has done in the past 3,000 years. Their creation's dominance dwindles. Priority was granted to President Santos 3 days subsequently. Message sent by the Defiant's remaining captain, Rodriguez, who is in charge of the fleet. The President's lady, Rodriguez's the secure channel displayed the picture. He looked weathered and his outfit was a mess, burned by the heat of combat. I have completed the mission. It is ours, Kepler 442b. The colony ships managed to reach the surface while we occupied ourselves with the aliens. 2,000. People are already beginning to construct the initial town. A wave of relief washed over Santa. The price tag was astronomical. Nonetheless, mankind had demonstrated its validity. No amount of shackling would make them comply. How about her people? Despite her fear of the response, she inquired. As a result, 60% of the mother fleet, 43,000 people engaged. The alien was destroyed and Admiral Chun perished. The alien's flagship, although they suffered more losses than anticipated. As a result, they abandoned rather than enduring further setbacks. Santos grimaced and nodded. Clarification would be required of her. Telling the ones they left behind the reason why their loved ones had perished in battle against extraterrestrials located in faraway universe of stars. Human rebellion comes at a price, and she would have to explain it. However, prior to that, she was confronted with an unforeseen challenge. Strange reports are coming in from our sources, Captain Rodriguez, Secret Services. Do you know what a quantum consciousness transfer is? Rodriguez appeared puzzled. Sorry, ma'am. How about I? The last words said by Admiral Chun. More than just her final remarks were conveyed. The researchers here found a large information in the seconds leading up to the Indomitable's demise. The indication was sent by quantum cryptography to each vessel in her armada. Santos drew. She displayed a secret document. Included in the data stream was a full neural diagram depicting the neural pathways, memory encodings, and personality matrix of Admiral Chun, all of the things that contributed to her identity. Rodriguez finally grasped it. Are you saying that she is actually alive? Indeed, it is my intended meaning. We have been utilizing our Luna Quantum Laboratory to explore the timepiece. Based on Chun's genetic patterns, they have created a cloned body and transferred her mind to it. This morning, she asked for a present state of affairs. The ramifications were enormous. If people were able to being aware right up to the point of passing away, then they were basically immortal. They could fight without caring about anything. Its victims, as death was only a passing affliction. Mahmoud Rodriguez spoke more slowly. All of the crew members who perished in combat. Is this what it means? With each vessel and our every ship in the Armada has the identical quantum consciousness transfer device. Throughout our undercover for 5 years perfecting the technology, but today marked its debut in the real world. We were not defeated, Captain. About 43,000 individuals. Nearly 43,000 lives were lost. This was the first time during the fight that Santos cracked a smile. That ship's crew within the month, the Indomitable will be back on her feet. Drowning pilots will never have to fly again. Regardless of the soldier who gave his life protecting the colony will be stationed once again. An emergency alarm cut off the discussion. A datapad was hurriedly brought into the office by Santos's assistant. The president, Madame, you must to observe this. Across the cosmos, the film of the alien invasion has gone viral. Santos was marveled as they took the pad. Communication networks played the footage of the conflict all over the Higman ideal. People from the subject species who had never witnessed resistance from the invaders, when they saw helpless humanity perish instead of giving in. On a more critical note, though, they were observer of human triumphs. The footage shows everything, the assistant said with enthusiasm, honoring the sacrifice of Admiral Chun as the aliens pull back from ramming attacks. It's outpacing the hegemony in terms of expansion, can put a stop to it. Subject species saw the conflict on 17 separate worlds and started to raise risky questions about Kepler's edge, the ability to withstand dominance. What prevented them? How much more sophisticated might aliens be if an ape-like creature could drive them away? What do societies achieve? In Faction Prime's industrial universe, workers at the workplace paused their shifts to talk about the film of the human war. Regarding the dolphin-like citations, convened emergency councils to discuss resistance in the underwater realm of Aquatica. Regarding the insectoid hive queens, sent chemical information regarding the planet core in the desert. The bravery of humans. These reports were received by Admiral Keth and his wounded command. Returning to hegemony space, the spacecraft hobbled. Every communication validated his darkest fears. Humans hadn't only triumphed in combat, an entire galaxy was sparked by them. Excuse me, unusual communication patterns are being detected throughout the Empire. The subject species are coordinating, Rick stated.
Spanning different systems, the pattern indicates a concerted effort to disrupt the status quo. There are already 17 compromised systems, but that number is increasing. Excuse me, but we Keith Val reviewed the intelligence reports in anticipation of a potential crisis. For 3,000 years, dominance was sustained by the hegemony by superior weaponry. The subject species acquiesced to their role since opposition appeared to bleak. However, people had demonstrated that resistance was feasible. What's more, they proved it could be done. All patrol boats should go into defensive mode. Roles, he mandated. Boost security alerts across all topic realms. And dispatch A, the hegemonic council's priority message. What should it say, sir? Keithville glanced at the strategy, showcasing human space. Simply a tiny place. However, its occupants have shifted the galactic power dynamic. Inform them that a new type of adversary, warn them that people are unique among animals, in that they view death as momentary. Battle without fear of defeat, and motivate others by virtue of their... His mind wandered to Admiral Chun's parting remarks of liberty, and he hesitated. Option: inform them that it's possible we erred greatly by endangering this species. Even worse, these people are showing others that they shouldn't be scared of us. In the midst of all this, on Kepler 44-B, in the freshly formed colony, 2,000 pioneers labored to construct their new dwelling. Having observed the fought in space via radio connections and telescopes, they had witnessed their freed from their oppressors. They began to construct structures and cultivate land. They founded their first town, which they called Chan City, on soil that had been soaked with human blood, by way of tribute to the admiral who gave his life and then died again, defending their independence. And under the cover of darkness, they beheld the twinkling stars and understood that the Empire, in another part of the universe, was discovering the true meaning of confront an unstoppable foe that would not budge, give ground, or submit. The struggle for humanity had fired the initial shot, marking the beginning of cosmic independence. The enormous stronghold Eternal Dominion was the site of an emergency council meeting. Around the capital planet of Zephyria Prime, 12 of the most powerful species in the cosmos, sat surrounding a neutronium tabletop that each had governed. No one in their respective areas has ever seen a crisis of this magnitude for millennia. Admiral, as he appeared before them, Kethel's report revealed that his silver uniform bore burned scars from the Battle of Kepler's Edge, placed on the table before every member of the council. 47 pages detailing show us how mankind might achieve the unthinkable triumph, pleaded the counselor, vexed. Keithball discusses the recent discovery of a species, different systems, brought the holographic tabletop display up to date with the galaxy's current status. Systems ruled by a dominant power, red systems experiencing a public uprising, and yellow systems exhibiting symptoms of discontent. The inhabitants aired their conflict with our troops from across the galaxy. Subject species that have been submissive to us for eons have witnessed our spacecraft destroyed by rudimentary beings. Counselor hissed. Belief is not capability. Belief is that resistance is possible. Demonstrate the cost of Thresh of the Bone Collective by crushing these uprisings with overwhelming force. Rebellion? We attempted that strategy. Yesterday, we attacked the two, quelled their mutiny. We used the Aquatica system and eliminated 3 billion citations, while their coastal towns were turned into radioactive wasteland. The council members gave a nod of approval. This was the way law and order worked. Was kept nevertheless, Kethville persisted. In the hours following, the 7 other systems proclaimed independence in response to the bombing. The annihilation of, instead of discouraging resistance, Aquatica actively promoted it. The counselor is on the lookout for you. Seem to be implying that our conventional approaches are ineffective. Geometric Imperium. I'm implying that the rules of the game have been altered by humans. Prior to their subject species used to dread us more than they despised us now, due to our disobedience. Council room plunged into hushed silence. For 3,000 years, proved that the hegemony had kept control by using a straightforward calculation. Authority, make everyone do what you say. Quickly and thoroughly crush any opposition. Show us these humans, the counselor commanded. More talk. The method had never failed before. In the Void Syndicate, Keith adjusted the screen to display video from the Battle of Kepler. The council was enthralled to see human ships perform tragic, ramming assaults. Admiral Chun gave her life to end. Flagship, with a last humanity, preparing to battle against insurmountable odds. They did so with the knowledge that would perish. Noted Psychic Dominance Counselor Yu. Their brain behaviors reveal an utter lack of dread of mortality and an unwavering will to cause harm. Kethel informed them, that's not the most disturbing part, and then gave them confidential documents. Broadcasts from the surface of the Earth. 3 weeks subsequent to the conflict, Admiral Chundid were found to be alive and in charge of a new fleet. Our intelligence suggests that beings may transmit their awareness to other bodies. Just as they were about to pass away, the members of the council looked at each other. Adversaries were novel. Moreover, Kethel stated, human military. Since we issued our ultimatum, output has surged by 800%. They aren't constructing fleets for defense. Invasion forces are being assembled. Marauding armies? The crystalline figure of Counselor Vextall trembled with anxiety. Does that imply they want to launch an attack on ours? If one believes intercepted messages, people are hatching a plot known as Operation Justified Envy. Their goal is the emancipation of all galactic subject species. The subsequent quiet was shattered by Counselor Thresh's ear-piercing laughter. They are welcome. Their worlds will be reduced to ash and their fleets to dust by our hands. After that, we will eliminate all humans from the cosmos by tracking them out and eliminating their race. I really doubt you get it. Hey, Cthulhu whispered. No one is accompanying them. The screen went from showing a submissive spacecraft travels throughout the galaxy. Ships manned by humans were seen, although the number of ships from many other kinds of animals, citations that managed to withstand our onslaught, have now become members that group. The once extinct Krillian refugees have surfaced. The Proxima Collective's silicon mines have unleashed its clandestine warships. 17 different animals are now lending a hand to human troops in combat. Counselor Mordok sprang suddenly to his feet. I will not abide by this. We will wipe out any world that dares to defy us. If it becomes necessary, we will wipe off entire species. We gave it a go. He was reminded by, with every horrific act, an increase of defiant groups. Everyone in the cosmos now knows that humans aren't immune to defeat. Most significantly, they've learned from us that we're deserving of defeat. Its members out in a fit of rage. Some called for a swift military response. Some others contacted up for discussion. A small number of people proposed a disengagement strategy to strengthen the remaining land amidst the mayhem. The voice of Counselor 6 pierced through like a sharp tool. No sound. The geometric being's shapes changed in intricate patterns as it analyzed data related to tactics. Study finished. Rising Uprising now includes 43% of the domain of dominance. It is projected that there will be a complete loss of effect within the first year and a half. Strong suggestion. A swift strategic action is necessary. Which type of reaction would you like? Protocol for Vextual Elimination requested. Every defiant, all systems will be disinfected. We shall eradicate any species that provide support. Through the use of complete fear, we will ensure that the remaining regions remain under our control. Everyone else on the council thought about this. Although it was a drastic measure, the hegemony had before resorted to genocide in order to preserve order. The expense will skyrocket. We are discussing, Councillor Yulinara said, ruining countless planets and claiming the lives of countless individuals. On the other hand, there is, 6 people said, the end of hegemony is upon us. These humans have spread disease across the galaxy, infected with harmful beliefs of independence and defiance, quickly cauterized to stop its spread. The vote was close. With 7 people in favor of the end, 5 were against it, but it was sufficient. Admiral Counselor, Extermination Protocol 7 is going to be implemented by you, Thresh said. In every defiant realms, every planet that has resisted our rules shall be turned to molten coal ash. The extinction of all creatures that have provided sustenance to humans is inevitable. Formally, it will be completed, advisors. However, when the Admiral departed from the council room, he experienced a icy resolve inside them. Like dictators throughout history, the hegemony were ready to commit the cardinal sin. In the face of defiance, people have resorted to even more repressive measures, demonstrating universe that the hyenas might be able to withstand. At last, dominance was on the verge of make it clear to the galaxy why standing up was important. From her vantage point above, on the deck of her brand new flagship, she watched as the greatest fleet ever assembled for a departure. There were 2,000 ships in Earth's orbit, but they were outshone by the allies who had joined their ranks. Biohip citation from Aquatica Travel moved through space with the grace and agility of living whales, their beaks adorned with sophisticated weaponry. Vessels for mining silicon derived from looking straight at Proxima. Collective was painful because of the geometric impossibilities they presented. Piloted by Krillian survivors, craft constructed with the rubble of their planet that was destroyed. Every ship is a memorial to their long-vanished culture. Every fleet reports ready for departure. Total, Captain Torres informed the Admiral. Army, 8,700 ships representing 43 distinct species. Chan gave a subtle nod. I was in the most formidable army ever mustered by the galactic subjects. Yet, it was insufficient to compete with the hegemony's whole might. That's fine, she reasoned. You don't have to compete with them. All we have to do is stay alive longer than they do. Let all ships in. She ordered the opening of the channel. Admiral Chun cast his gaze out across the gathered fleet. The first such intergalactic collaboration between humans and extraterrestrials. We are bound together, not by terror or conquering, but by the common goal of achieving freedom. This is 6 months ago. The hegemony attempted to imprison Admiral Chun and all ships. Folks, they let us know the limits of our galaxy, where we could and could not travel. Extermination, if we disregarded her threats. She hesitated, recalling the agony of the ship going boom as she was engulfed in flames at Kepler's edge. Pleasure of escorting the extraterrestrial spacecraft with her. We demonstrated to them the consequences of endangering humankind now. We demonstrate to them the consequences of endangering our allies across the fleet, which includes crews from dozens of other species.
Attention to what she had to say. They were all involved in the struggle for different reasons. Everyone was determined to put an end to the 3,000 years of tyranny that had been endured under hegemonic control. They are planning to annihilate worlds that revolt against them in order to establish a precedent for terrorizing humanity into submission. Instance. They believe that annihilation will reinstate their power. Hyun's voice rigid. They're going to find out that people aren't very good at dealing with genocide. Dangers. We're heading to Zephyria Prime, the epicenter of their dominion. In an effort to topple their leadership, disperse their fleets, and liberate all species under galactic servitude. The merging fleet embarked on, approaching the solar system's periphery, getting ready for the longest. Chun added, I won't lie to you. Many of us won't be able to hyperspace jump in history. Come out on top in this conflict. For 3,000 years, the hegemony have controlled the galaxy. Their arsenal is unfathomable. Their ships are superior than our finest, and with the wisdom gained from countless realms traversed, she grinned. President Santos had demonstrated in her rebellious address, but they had never encountered anybody or anything like to us. Against an adversary that sees death as transitory, considers insurmountable difficulties to be Tuesday,